the car park. Did you see that?
I think I did. I'm a little behind in emails because we are on our winter break at the Citadel. So I'm going to go back through my emails this evening. I'm pretty sure I got it though.
Okay.
So I'll double check.
Yeah, the designations are interesting.
Yeah.
Quite.
We went out to Asheville, Maryville last week. It was me, Councilman Shahid, and Councilman Waring. And Dudley, you would probably know this. There's a park that we're developing out that way that's been in the works, but they're going to break ground very soon. And then there's a fraternity, a Black fraternity that's, obviously very popular across the U.S., but has membership here in Charleston, and they want to put a memorial or plaque out at the park. So I think Mike Wack was trying to connect with you regarding that, and I think it's a great idea and a great opportunity, and that's going to be an awesome park.
Oh, if that's what you're referring to, yes, I absolutely know about that, and I wasn't able to make it on the 17th to the walkthrough.
Yeah, it was
the
called
monument. I saw pictures. It was really looks really good.
Something different though, Felice, on what Mike Wack sent you.
Oh, okay. Yes, then I will check my emails.
Right. We need that's been in the works now in terms of placing the statue there. For a couple of years, we've been talking.
Yes. The Mr. Walker, I think is his name, with Omega Sci-Fi was telling me about that, and it's just an incredible project that they're going to do. So I look forward to that.
Yes. And we'll make sure it's an outgrowth of your committee.
Yes, we will. I'll be talking with my subcommittee about making sure they include Dr. Just's name in that particular project, that we have that as part of our, just as an example of what can be done. Because I mean, it's going to be done.
Yeah.
The support and the approval is already there.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe we should get started, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, Mr. Chairman.
Why don't we call it to order and just take a moment of silence? Amen.
Amen.
Has anyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes that Velvet sent us? If so, do I hear a motion regarding the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes, Chair.
I don't know. We need a second.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, we got a second from Alvin because you can't do both. Moved and properly seconded that we accept the minutes as information as submitted. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Oppose? Okay, the ayes have it. I'm assuming that we still have our 7 on the phone. Okay. Next, we're supposed to have some remarks from Jason and I. Maybe I'll just start it out, Jason.
Sure.
And I'll only take a few minutes here, because I think administratively there are a few things that we need to talk about. First of all, as most of us know, the co-chairs recommended the removal of one of our commissioners. And when I said recommend, I said that purposely because chairmans don't have the authority to remove. We had to get permission and, of course, concurrence from the mayor for that action, because he's the only one with the authority to remove or appoint commissioners. As it relates to the latter, the mayor is appointing Council Member Ross Appel to replace the commissioner that was removed. I'm not sure if Ross is on the phone. That decision was just reached fairly recently, and I welcome Councilmember Ross to the commission. I think that he will bring a lot and have a lot to contribute. As for a code of conduct, I think that that's been something that's been bantered around for a while, and I'd like for the commissioners to know that our legal department is in the process of developing a code of conduct. But I also want all of our commissioners to know that there's a reason why honorable is in front of most all elected officials' names. It's honorable because we're held to a much higher standard. And in developing those code of conduct provisions, that higher standard would be incorporated. It would also address a code of conduct for commissioners and other committees that's under the purview of the city. So I wanted to just make sure that that was clear, that the only authority to remove or appoint lies in Mayor John Tecklenburg. It's been a number of years since the apology for slavery and Jim Crow, and the city continues its quest for equal humanity. The city has relocated the Calhoun statue, provides funding, substantial funding to the International African American Museum, is doing the same for the Mother Emanuel Memorial. In addition, the city has also sold at a minimum cost to the Mother Emanuel Foundation 113 Calhoun Street, which is across the street from the church, to also assist in telling the story. The city has, council has recently removed what we thought was a 1931 Jim Crow law. We continue to increase housing opportunities. And during the recent distraction, the city has been being urged to denounce hate groups. Well, I want to remind everybody that the city is a bit ahead of that. We did pass hate crime resolution and legislation, and we did forward that in support of a statewide hate crime legislation. And as a part of that, of course, it's denouncing hate. But even further and more recently, Councilmember Robert Mitchell will be introducing a resolution denouncing hate groups in the city of Charleston. So we'll be going a bit beyond the hate crime resolution and recommendations to putting out an additional resolution reaffirming the city's commitment to hate crimes and hate groups. And it's very important for me to talk about our mission as a commission. And I said all those things before just to give sort of some background, backdrop to what we're doing. After maybe right after the apology for slavery, the city wanted to make sure that apology was something that was living and breathing. And all of this took place during the time when we were having a racial bias audit. And as most of you know, that audit did have some findings, and under the leadership of Chief Reynolds, he's implementing it accordingly. I say that because I got a call from the mayor who says to me, Dudley, we've done all those things. We've even taken down the Calhoun statue, but we're not getting at systemic problems, problems that are institutionalized. And he came up with the idea of establishing a commission on equity, inclusion, and racial conciliation, because he felt that it was most important that we get away from symbolic gestures and that we dig deep into those things that are institutionalized, that have a discriminatory impact on certain populations in our city. And thus we have the commission, a commission where the city has provided resources through appointing specific staff to work with the commission, putting funding in the 2021 budget specifically for commission activities. What I'm just trying to do is dispel some of the discomfort that some commissioners may have with regard to our city's commitment to make sure that this commission is not performative, but a commission that is intentional and will provide the necessary resources to implement as many of our recommendations as possible. This commission's backbone is the volunteer, are the volunteers that make up the subgroups, that make up the kinds of suggestions that I have seen through the various status reports that the subcommittees have submitted to us for review. And I would say that based upon that, we're headed in the right direction. One of the other issues, and I'll be finished very soon, one of the other issues is 90 days is not enough time, okay, to get anything accomplished. After discussions with the mayor, he agrees, but at the end of that 90-day period, which I think is sometime around the end of January, he would like an interim report, not a status report, but an interim report from each one of the subcommittees so that he can have an opportunity to review them and an opportunity to comment and make suggestions accordingly. So we're establishing, and we'll give you a specific date, the end of January, or perhaps collectively we can decide when the interim report is due. And the final report, we will have further discussions with the mayor in terms of when that will be due. Because once we've reviewed the interim report, it will probably show the necessity for more time for each group to identify what they consider is systemic and to come up with recommendations on how we can remove it to be consistent with our mission to eradicate the vestiges of slavery and Jim Crow. So I say all that just to sort of give a backdrop so that when we get into some of our discussions, hopefully I've addressed some of the issues. Distractions cannot be tolerated by this commission. And when I say distractions, I'm simply talking about outside activities that may have a negative impact or impression on the work that we do. We cannot allow that to happen by any of our members or any of our subcommittee members as well, because we have too much work to do. And I'd like to take the opportunity lastly and to thank everyone who has been working on this commission. I'd like to take a special shout out to Amber, who is managing at this point 7 subcommittees as well as the commission and a whole host of other things. She is the glue that is keeping this together. And as you look at the membership of the commission, you will find that our membership represents every segment of our population, and that was purposeful. So with that, I'll turn it over to the co-chair for comments, Councilmember Sacklin.
Thank you, Dudley. It's tough to come after you, and I'm not going to elaborate that long, but the mayor is with us. I don't know if Mayor Tech, you want to say anything, say hi? I know you just joined us as Dudley was talking.
Well, I did hear a good bit of that. Thank you, Councilmember Gregory, for reciting all that and the meaning of why we're all here. And so I also want to hear at the end of the year, wish my thanks to everyone and happy holiday season coming up. Regarding the date, could I propose maybe an appropriate date to have an interim report in? It can be as close to final as possible, that's fine. On January the 19th, the day that we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King's Jr. Birthday. And maybe that's an appropriate benchmark and something that we can kind of all celebrate his birthday this year with getting the first reports in and being able to give us the opportunity to look through the recommendations that you'll have. And I'll go further and suggest that, you know, if we could shoot by the end, I don't want to stretch this thing out a long time. Councilmember Gregory indicated a little more time was appropriate. If we could shoot to get a final report by the end of February, I certainly think, I hope that would be enough time. So I wasn't really prepared for statements such as Councilmember Gregory just made, or at such length, but it just, I must share with you, it reminded me of a moment in my own quest of enlightenment, if you will. I mean, I've always considered myself a pretty socially conscious and tried to be enlightened and tolerant, open-minded individual. But when we went through that process, Councilmember Gregory, of coming up with the apology for slavery, and I really dug into how deeply involved the city of Charleston as an institution, as a corporation, was involved in that administration of slavery. It really sunk into my mind and heart how you use the word systemic, how ubiquitous, how ingrained racism had become in this city and this society. It's like endemic. It's like pervasive, and it really struck me at that point more than any other in my life, and that's why this work is so important that we're tasked with is to really dig down deeper than we've ever done as a city and root out those places where we could do anything possible to end systemic, institutionalized, ingrained racism, prejudice. And anyway, I just thought I would share that with you. Thank you for all your good work.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. We can transition, Amber. I just want to share two quick thoughts with the commission members before we transition to the rest of the agenda. I wasn't on last week's call. I was having a medical procedure, so I missed it. But I do want to say that I just want to thank everyone on the commission for your continued work and focused work and staying focused on the task at hand. And the two things I do want to mention are, the previous 2 weeks in terms of messaging, in terms of what occurred. Hopefully you all understand where I'm coming from. I've been very clear to the public. I've been very clear about where my personal stance is. And I think, Dudley, myself, and the mayor took the appropriate action last week by removing our fellow commission member. I think that was appropriate. I also want to say that while I'm not dismissing the past 2 weeks, the more I think about this, I think we've called out those behaviors, but this commission is bigger than me. It's bigger than Dudley. It's bigger than the mayor, and it's bigger than anyone on this call. So I don't want us to be distracted by the folks that are going to distract us and try to distract us. And I think what Dudley was alluding to is, and we'll get to that part of the agenda, is within our own commission, I feel we have voices that will derail our efforts. And we cannot buy into that. I think we need to stay focused. I'm here learning as I've started this process, and I will continue to learn. And I've had separate conversations with a lot of you all in the past 2 weeks. Particularly, I have grown immensely and come to realize some things about my own self. So, and those that are on the call know who I've spoken with. And it's really helped me kind of evolve. So I just want to say thanks for everything we're doing. Let's stay focused. I'm glad the mayor has been gracious to allow us a little bit more time, because I do think the process is more important, to be honest with you, than the outcome. Meaning, I think this process, as it unfolds, is really creating a situation where we're learning from each other. And I've shared this with Councilman Gregory and Amber. And I want us to continue this process, because that's what creates the strength in the commission. And I know Elvin has mentioned, what do we do after the 90 days? I hope in my heart, and I hope that everyone on this call continues this work in some formal capacity, because I do think that it needs to continue. And I think with the mayor's blessing and the continued, infusion of resources, not just from the city, but what we're working on with outside resources, I think this work will continue. And that's all I wanted to mention. I just want to echo Councilman Gregory as well about where we are, the hard work that Amber's put in. I have to say, Amber, it's always been there. That leadership has always been there, but I really feel like the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks, it's really shining in ways that make me proud to be part of this team. And I know that you get support from a lot of the commission chairs. And I just want to thank you for being that voice and mentor for Amber. So thank you all.
And we turn it over to Amber.
So I too would like to thank all of you for your time and your willingness to continue with us on this journey. The last couple of weeks have definitely been tough for all of us, but I'm definitely grateful for your support and your willingness to keep going through all of it. So I thought it was important for us to set some expectations for each other moving forward and talk about some norms and agreements for the group. And so I'd like for us to go through them and then suggest any revisions or additions and discuss if this is something that we can agree upon as a group, as something that we would like to adopt moving forward.
Did you make it a little bigger for the elderly?
I think Velvet's running the show.
Yeah, just make it a little bigger. Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay. So our first agreement would be to stay engaged. We agreed to listen to each other without distraction. We are committed to remaining emotionally, intellectually, and socially involved in the dialogue. Second one is speak your truth, knowing it's only part of the truth. We agree to speak our truth and to be willing to take risk. We will be honest with our thoughts, feelings, and opinions. We will not say merely what we perceive others want to hear. Experience discomfort. We agree to experience some discomfort because we understand that in order to engage in meaningful conversations about race and inequity, there will be times when we are uncomfortable. Notice power dynamics in the room. We agree to be aware of how we use our privilege. For example, our titles and our positions. Be conscious and conscientious speakers. We agree to be conscious and conscientious of our use of time when we are speaking, and will strive to maintain a balance between speaking, listening, and reflecting. Focus on changing systems. We agree to acknowledge the systemic nature of racism and collectively work to dismantle institutional and systemic racism. Be kind and brave. We agree to be specific with our language and ask others for clarifications when they use vague terms. We will use our language in ways that build bridges. Invitation for laughter. We agreed to laugh and have fun together. We will allow for play, curiosity, and creative thinking. So if you guys can give me some feedback, you think there's something that I missed that we should add as part of our agreement to each other?
Hey, Amber, this is Crystal. I think these are really good, and it also speaks to a lot of what has already been said and shared. If you could scroll back up just a little bit, where be conscious, okay, up a little bit more. Yeah, right there. So the speaking your truth part and the experiencing discomfort, I think those are ones, and I'll speak for myself, that that needs to sit with me, and also, you know, us all on the commission, because, you know, we all know the last 2 weeks have been uncomfortable, but like I've been saying to folks, I've been uncomfortable for 38 years. So when we talk about racism, what I say or what Amber says or what Jason Sackern may say may not sound or feel nice, but if that's me speaking my truth, then, you know, if it's something that requires a sidebar conversation, then we have to be comfortable enough to acknowledge that and say that, because oftentimes my truth may not be Amber's truth or Velvet's truth, but our words may make each other feel uncomfortable, but we have to acknowledge that, speak that, and then work on that together so that we can better understand each other. But I appreciate you putting those within the norms.
Thank you for that, Crystal.
Yeah, Crystal, real quick, and just piggybacking off of what you said, I always try to tell people that, you know, speaking your truth, like whenever somebody speaks their truth, don't take it personal, right? Whenever somebody takes it personal, that's when the conversation tends to go in every direction outside of the actual subject matter that we're trying to, you know, solve. So whenever somebody's speaking, like, just don't take it personal, just take it for whatever it is, and just continue to engage. So just don't take it personal.
Right, and we can't do this work without building relationships. So, you know, and I'll just be transparent. Like, I've spoken to Jason on several occasions, and we have, you know, what I said, I'm just saying it off the cuff. This is what's on my mind, and this is what I'm thinking. And, you know, he takes it for what I says, but if he needs clarity, he asks. But that's about the process, right? About the systemic racism and understanding the powers that are in the room. I know I've spoken to Councilman Dudley and other individuals about different conversations that I've had with different folks in the community who may not feel comfortable coming. Well, you know, I'm here, my contact information is available online. They may not feel comfortable just coming to you. So sometimes we have to come to them and hear their truth, which may not be what we see or feel. And that's part of the systemic work. Sorry, Mr. Harris, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay, Crystal. I'm Vice Chair of the Criminal Justice Reform, sitting in for Michael. So I am not technically a council member, but I'll speak my truth from the perspective of these suggested agreements are important, but we've got to drive it down to all of the members of the council. I mean, one of the problems with the 90-day time frame is that we've not had time to bond with each other, develop the relationships. So a number of the things that are established at the council level stay at the council level. So, but if the subcommittees are part of the ecosystem, all right, we have to in putting these agreements in place, we have to make certain that we communicate that and have the subcommittee members aware and engage in an agreement with that.
think that's a very important point.
Amber, I'd like to add too, just as follow-up. So I'm Kim Butler Willis. I'm the new subcommittee chair for health disparities and environmental justice. Newest kid on the block, I think. So nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem at all. So just from hearing what Crystal and Alvin just had to share, I actually made notes of two I would like for the commission to consider. So one is to think higher of one another. I think sometimes when we talk about race, racism, discrimination, we immediately believe that your thoughts or your truth is coming from an ill intent place, when we wouldn't be on this commission if we weren't committed to that vision, right? And so if someone says something that you don't agree with or you found malicious, think higher of that person and know that that was not their intent. Instead, they just wanted to give some feedback that may not agree with what you said or what you think. So I think that's a good place to be in relationship with anyone. And then the second I had was listen with validation. I think so often if we don't share the experience of the speaker, then we're already thinking of a rebuttal or an appeal to what they just said. So listen with validation. Whatever you say is your truth is indeed true to you. And so a part of that I need to respect as your experience and layer that with my own experience so that you don't feel disregarded in this often murky conversation.
I think those are two good suggestions to add. Felice, I think you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I've been toying around with this, but I do think now that I'm sitting here that this would be a good one to add. Respect silence. Sometimes silence does not mean consent or that you don't have any thoughts about something. Some of us really have to think, and I speak for myself, I really have to think before I say something. And so I may not say a lot, but in a public space, but I have a lot of thoughts. And sometimes if we just leave the space silent after somebody has spoken, it gives room for those of us who take longer to process, to figure out if we want to contribute and what we want to say. So I wanted to add that in there.
I think that's also really helpful, Felice.
Felice, we call that microwaves and slow cookers. Some people, they have those microwave thoughts. Some people, we need to roast a little bit.
And the funny thing is, as a professor, I'm quick, but when I'm in a space like this, I'm not as fast because I really, want to, I'm not the one running the show. So I have to, be more thoughtful.
Silence is the best wisdom.
Absolutely.
That's proper.
Okay. Any other suggestions?
Amber, really quick, will we get an electronic copy of this? And is this something that we're going to review at the beginning of each meeting?
That's my hope, is that we can add the additions and adopt it as something that we incorporate into the work that we're doing going forward.
And then do we also need to give our verbal assent at every meeting? Some groups that I'm a part of, you do have to say, I agree. Just to make sure that everyone is willing to participate at this level.
I think that's great. I thought it would be something that we would do tonight. But I think going forward, I think if we're gonna review it every meeting, then it'd be something that we agree to every meeting.
I agree.
Okay, so if we don't have any other additions to it, then I think we will add those three and make it something that we use going forward for us as a group.
You can put it on the website as well, Amber, I think.
Yes, Felice, did you?
Subcommittees. Should we use this in our subcommittees? Should it be a requirement or should it be optional? I personally think it should be a requirement, but I just wanted to ask the group.
I think it should be a requirement as well.
And Dr. Knight, real quick, you will see respect silence on a t-shirt. So
yeah.
I will put that one on a t-shirt.
Are you going to give me a t-shirt too?
Oh, that's all you want as a t-shirt? I can make that happen.
Thanks, Alvin.
Cam, I was about to do the same thing, size medium. Appreciate it, brother.
I feel like everybody needs a t-shirt, Alvin.
As long as y'all don't want like a cut of the profit, I'm good.
Got it. Okay, and I guess the next thing on our agenda is the training. So I sent out the information for the recording for sessions 2 and 3 to all of the chairs and asked you to distribute that information to your subcommittee members. So I would appreciate if you guys can continue to do that. We have until December 30th to make to post on the discussion boards. Any questions for Dr. Owens? And with that, I've also discussed with the co-chair looking for some additional training for the group. So we're still looking into that and looking for opportunities for learning going forward. So that's the update on the training.
I'm sorry, Amber, can you share that final date for discussion submissions?
It's December 30th.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 2.
Amber, I think that it's very important that we try to make sure as many of the subgroup as well as ourselves attend the training. And as I've been talking to Amber about it, I mean, I think the training gives us the opportunity to at least be talking the same language, so that when we say the word equity, we all know what that means. When we say the word intentional, et cetera, we all know what that means as it relates to what we're doing. So I think the training is very, very important at this point.
And I guess my follow-up question would be, with the discussion questions needing to be uploaded by December 30th, is there going to be a time at the beginning of January for us to debrief the video 2 and 3 process, or what's the plan for that?
Dr. Owens is going to go through all the questions and compile the responses, and then we can send it out to the group.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So next on our agenda was an open discussion. So we just wanted to open the floor to give the chairs an opportunity to kind of address some of the questions that you all have had and we haven't had the opportunity to talk about. So whoever's ready, let's get started.
Hey, Velvet, you can stop sharing the screen so we can get everybody. Thank you. Yeah, got it. Who wants to start? Crystal?
I knew you were gonna call me. I was ready. I stay ready. I stay ready. Always.
Well, you and I we talk the most, so.
Yes. So, okay. So I'll start with our conversation this evening. First, let me say I appreciate you all taking the step to make the adjustment to the special commission as far as who was, which council members were involved and members of the special commission. Because, as I always say, when it comes to work around racial equity and conciliation, we all have to be on the same page and speaking and agreeing on the same norms, if you will. One of the things I know, it's been labeled as the elephant in the room, but I don't want to, and this is just me speaking my truth. I don't want us to look at what happened a couple of weeks ago as a distraction. I think it was something that needed to happen and be put on display and discussed. Because that's a concern. I mean, if the commission is in place to work on and eliminate systemic racism, then we have to be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations, which was not necessarily a distraction. It was just something that needed to be discussed and addressed. And I think also I'm kind of, and initially when we started, I know prior to our initial meeting, we had talked about, okay, all of us going through, training so that we're all on the same page, so that we all know, what levels of anti-racism work or training that we've all been involved in, right? And as far as the norms, I'm glad we're, implementing them now. However, I think one of the things that that we've all been voicing is the fact that that's where we should have started. And because hindsight is 2020, moving forward, although we are extending beyond the 90 days, with the training, the reason I was asking so many questions about the training is because it's hard enough with us having to do things through Zoom all the time, right? Because we're not able to actually feel and touch in the same physical space and room. But as far as continuing the training forward, or our education and knowledge about what equity and inclusion and racial conciliation looks like, we need to make sure that we have intentional spaces where we're either in caucuses having conversations and dialogue, or whether we're collectively having conversations and dialogue. Because it's one thing to type it out and share what you're thinking, but not everybody is a visual learner. Like I have to engage. So I just want to make sure that we're intentional with those types of things as we move forward.
Crystal, could you explain what you mean by caucuses and what would happen in the caucuses? I know you mean small groups, but what exactly are you envisioning with training moving forward in small groups?
Okay, so in other anti-racism trainings or diversity trainings that I have been involved in or facilitated or designed, what happens is you have spaces where you have the collective body, right? But then you break off into caucuses, whether it's by age, whether it's by race or ethnicity, to actually have smaller conversations to go a little bit deeper. Because we know that when we're in rooms or spaces with people that we're comfortable with, we may say a little bit more and share a little bit more, which would empower us to speak a lot more when we're in the larger group per se. So what usually happens is you have the collective group in an overall training space, then you would break off into caucuses and have different discussions, talk about different, focus questions or whatnot. And then you would come back and have a larger discussion on top. So it's like a building, like an intentional building space, right? Because conversations around race and equity are not easy. I mean, it's not. So, but that's what I meant by caucuses.
Thank you. That makes sense.
And just so that I'm clear, Crystal,
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean then we shouldn't do this by Zoom, but we should actually, because Zoom can break us into smaller groups. So you're talking about in-person sessions?
No, what I'm saying is it's hard enough that we have to do it by Zoom, which is fine.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, in hearing the breakdown of what we're doing post video training 2 and training 3, I want to make sure that we still have that time to get back into collective spaces, whether it's Zoom or whatnot, because we don't know what COVID's going to do.
Okay.
In a few weeks. But so yes, I like the idea of us breaking off into smaller breakout rooms or breakout groups, if possible, to have those conversations.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important too.
Thank you. And that's all I have for right now.
Councilman Thacker.
Thank you. Crystal and everyone, I just want to let you all know that, the recognition that Councilman Gregory and myself and Amber have had about not doing some of the training in the front end, we acknowledge that. And that's something that, as we Monday morning quarterback this and think through it, that doesn't mean we can't re-engage in it. And I think that speaks to the trainings that Amber wants to do. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that we acknowledge that, that was an improvement for us. I think the other piece that I also want to acknowledge, and I've shared this with the mayor, is, Zoom has been wonderful in terms of efficiency. but it is not a substitute for real engagement in person. And I'll just say, as a new council member, it's been very difficult as a new council member to build alliances and build trust with fellow council members when we've been in this Zoom era. So I just want to let you know we should acknowledge that's been a challenge for the commission as well.
It's a challenge for everyone.
Please.
Would breakout rooms present an issue for FOIA simply because you cannot broadcast what goes on in a breakout room on Zoom? Because I do Zoom for work with my students. And when you go into the breakout rooms, whatever's being recorded, only the group settings being recorded, nothing in the breakout rooms is. And it's just a question I have. I totally agree. Breakout rooms are necessary. I do that with my students. And then we come back to the collective, and it's a much better conversation, and people have, you can see people relax once they get back into the bigger group. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to throw out there. How could
that was
work
part of the
FOIA?
issue with the very first training that was done by Dr. Owens, was she wanted to do breakout sessions, but we didn't have there's no capability to record in those rooms. So it's something that we're definitely been talking about and just trying to figure out how we can break this group into smaller groups so that we can meet and have those kinds of conversations as far as training, so we can have those deeper conversations. Anybody else?
When we go into executive session, we get put into a breakout room, not recorded, and you wouldn't record an executive session. And I guess we would risk some transparency if we had breakout sessions and they weren't recorded. But I mean, technically, we could vote to go into executive session and hold our breakout and then come back. I don't know. It might just be a way to maneuver that.
And we've had some lengthy discussions with legal in that regard, and we'll share that with you in terms of the difficulty of the commission going into an executive session. The other obstacle that we have is making sure that we don't have a quorum of city council members in a session, or a quorum of commissioners in a session. So there are a number of issues, Dr. Knight, that we're going to have to address as we move forward and attempt to accommodate what I think is extremely necessary in terms of caucusing and the smaller groups that Commissioner Crystal has been talking about. I think that's important, but we have a few little issues that we have to deal with before we can really define how that's going to work.
Mr. Harris has his hand raised.
Yeah, I wanted to suggest or raise 2 points. One, the events over the past 4 weeks left me with a sense that there could be forces out there who want to suggest that the work of this commission, whatever we recommend, is illegitimate. And it is very important that in our communication going forward, both to the external constituencies, that we keep an eye on legitimacy in terms of the work that we're doing. We should not be seen as a sideshow, a group of folks who have a particular perspective or advocating. With that in mind, one of the things that occurred, I came across a anti-racist continuum, which describes various stages of an organization development, going from an exclusive institution to a club institution to a compliance organization, an affirming institution, a transforming institution, and then a fully inclusive, anti-racist, multicultural institution in a transformed society. I looked at that because the charge, the purpose statement toward the end talked about the city becoming an anti-racist institution. There's a specific kind of language about a tool, and Amber's been working on survey tools that can be used by the staff to generate data, but there's not a framework to put that data in, right? I think some of the organizations, some of the subunits and some of the community groups will be at a different point on that continuum. And I would like and urge perhaps at a future conversation that the commission take a look at that continuum. Perhaps it may not be precisely the right continuum, but I think it does provide a framework for looking at where we are in any of the subcommittees, and also allows over time, when we make recommendations, the consideration of where are we? Are we simply being compliance because we can check the box with we did the training and we recruited folks, et cetera, but the philosophy is not one of real inclusion. And the most difficult thing, I think, is a question of racial conciliation. Well, at any rate, I just wanted to suggest that at some future point, members of the commission discuss that, because I would like to see us consider that as a recommendation for adopting and putting our work in order.
Thank you for that, Mr. Harris. I think that's something that me and the co-chairs can discuss before distributing to the rest of the commission members.
I do have some questions about the report. So now we're going to be presenting an interim report on the date that's been suggested by Mayor Tecklenburg is January 19th, and then a final report by the end of February. And during the discussion about that, the interim report was described as a report coming from each subcommittee. My first question is, what should the format of that report be? Is there a specific outline that we should follow? Should it be in the form of a resolution or a set of resolutions? Should it be, is there an example of similar, sorry for the noise, similar reports that other commissions have put forward that we could utilize? That's bath time for everybody out there in the universe. It's a happy bath time, but yeah, I'm just kind of wondering about the format, because I don't want to produce something that then is not usable by the mayor or city council if there's a certain format that's typically used for these kinds of reports.
And I think that's a fair question, because if we come up with a uniform outline, it will make it easier for us to put the full report together. As I looked at some of the status reports that were submitted, including yours, Dr. Knight, I thought that the format that you guys used there was appropriate. The one that really stuck out in my mind, however, was the one that was submitted by the Criminal Justice Subcommittee. And what made that one a little different to me was that they made it fairly simple, okay? They identified what they felt were the systemic discriminatory issue. And from that, they went to a specific either provision or ordinance of which they thought was promoting systemic discriminatory patterns. And as a result, they made recommendations with regard to what we should do with that particular ordinance, okay? So I thought that their format was just very simple, very clear, okay? This is the systemic problem we identified, okay? This is the tool or the mechanism that is causing it, and these are our recommendations to get rid of it. A little different with yours though, Felice, okay? And it'll be different with many, many others, okay? Because it's not that clean cut that you can do that. As for resolutions, I don't think that your final report should be in the form of a resolution. However, your final report may make recommendations for resolutions, or a specific resolution for a specific idea or action, okay? So the whole report should not be in the form of a resolution. So what we will commit to you, okay, is to send out to the commission and the subcommittee. And, you know, this is my co-chair, Sakrin. He's been preaching this now since we started the need for this. So we will try to send something out to you, okay? I would say within the next week, okay, with a format, because it is going to be very important for us. And Jerome and I have had this conversation too. It's important for us that when we get your reports, they're not all over the place, okay? And that we would then have some type of format that you guys were following that we can fold everything into and make it easier to get a final report. So we've heard you. I mean, this is something that Councilman Sakrin, our co-chair Sakrin, has been talking about now for a number of weeks, okay? So it's just time for us to get that out to you. But it was good to just get a sense from each group who submitted their status report on the direction that they were going.
Okay, thank you so much. And everyone enjoy Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in the background.
Okay.
And I see a lot of hands. Let me just conclude what I was saying. So the subcommittee report I see will be, the interim report will be from each subcommittee. The final report then, is that going to be from each subcommittee, or is it going to be a final report from the commission that will be due at the end of February?
That's a good question. Because if you send us your interims, okay, by January 19th, okay, we're going to need time. When I say we, I mean the mayor, your chairman, Amber, to start reviewing them and to start making recommendations back to you about how we think it may be strengthened, okay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're putting a lot of work on ourselves to be able to have something back to you in time for you to do a final, okay, that we will then incorporate as one single report. Okay. I mean,
Thank you.
Of course, all of the subcommittees information will be there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we're going to have to condense all that stuff. And when it comes to even for more specifics, of course, we'll have each report. Okay.
Thank you.
Am I making any sense, Amber?
Yes,
Okay.
a lot of sense.
All right. Okay.
Trying to read the chat as well.
Okay.
I saw Councilwoman Jackson had her. I'll go after her because I've already spoken.
Council.
I'm just, thank you. I appreciate listening to y'all's good questions. And I guess I'm more of an art than a science person. So in listening to you, I would not hope that a format will stifle the creativity that, I think we are knowing in our hearts is going to come through the subcommittees, especially if we're going to then have some iterative process that begins on January 20th and goes back and forth into February, helping to strengthen the recommendations or provide feedback or whatever it is that Councilmember Gregory is suggesting, will be the contribution of the overall commission writing team, or however that's going to play out. So I personally, if I were doing this, I would say err on the side of being as original and heartfelt as you possibly can when you make your first set of recommendations, and then let the process, contribute into formatting, combining, making some sense out of it as a publishable document, or however we're going to do it. So that's just me, but I hope that we don't make you fit round pegs into square holes prematurely.
I think that's a very good point, Commissioner Jackson, because we were being intentional and not initially providing any format so that people can be able to just, be creative, throw everything in they want to throw in. So we were intentional initially of not providing a format for the very same reasons, Commissioner Jackson, that you just articulated. But as we continue to move forward and have discussions with the various commissioners, we're getting that they need some format and a little more direction. Commissioner Zachary?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought your hand was up. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to, I did text Amber. I just want to let folks know that those interim reports, Amber, once you get them, is the plan to distribute them so everyone could read them?
Yes, so I'm missing, I think 2.
Okay.
At this point.
And I think we're at a point now where it's important that we share the reports with each other, because there's so much cross-fertilization, okay, in these reports. So it's very important that when we get them, everybody gets each other's, so that we can have a sense of, how health disparities may relate to youth and education, how health disparities relate to empowerment. I mean, I can go back and forth with each one of these things and show a correlation, a mutual relationship between them. So it's very, very important that whatever reports that the subcommittees develop, that those reports are all shared with one another. Councilmember, Commissioner Waring.
So, okay.
I'm sorry. You had a follow-up?
Well, yes, I was going to go after Councilwoman Jackson.
Can I give you? Can I just give you? Can I?
No, let her go ahead. That's fine.
Oh, let me just give you some rules, okay?
Okay.
What we try to do is, if someone has not spoken, okay, we allow that person to speak over someone who's already spoken, and that's why I went to Commissioner Waring.
Do you mean? Pardon me. Co-chair Gregory, do you mean in the city council? Because I'm a rule person too, but that wasn't one of our agreed norms. We normally have back and forth discussions. So I was just a little confused by that particular.
Well, I do think, okay, and that's why the time period is still problematic for me, okay? Because I do think that once we all get them all together, okay, there is a need for all of us to have some wide open discussions, okay? I agree with you, Dr. Knight. there is a need for us to have a very open dialogue with regard to what the various subgroups have come up with. So we'll try to work all this in, Dr. Knight. I'm with you.
Okay, thank you. So my quick question was, in follow-up.
I think it was
No, I said I would defer.
Okay,
I defer.
sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rouse.
Thank you. So my question was in follow-up to Dr. Knight's question. As far as we talked about this during our last 2 commission meetings about the chairs having time to meet together. Is it possible, Amber, for us to schedule a couple of times for the chairs to get together about because although we're submitting an interim plan on the 19th with our separate plans, I think it's still a good idea for us to have overlapping time in January into February to make sure that we're not double dipping, but all doing the same thing. Does that make sense?
Great suggestion.
I think we can schedule some time, not time with everybody together.
With the chairs, yeah.
Right, because we can't have more than 7. That's the quorum. But we can try to do some small groups.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarity, just for clarity, Commissioner Rouse, you were talking about all 13 chairpersons, weren't you?
The subcommittee chairs. So that would be how many? 7?
Oh, that's 7. Okay. Yeah, Amber's right.
Mm-hmm.
You can only have 6. Okay. All right. So we'll have to figure that out. But I agree with you. There needs to be, this is getting back to Commissioner Jackson's issue. There is a need to be some, and Commissioner Knight, there needs to be some open dialogue among these chairmen with regard to not just their report, but each other's report. So we'll have to try to schedule that.
Councilman Waring, did you still have something?
Well, yeah, I was just waiting to be recognized. That's all. Actually, I think Dr. Knight, Mr. Chairman, asked a question about operating procedures of the committee. One was when you were explaining about once a person spoke, you recognize somebody else first. I don't think you answered that question, but Dr. Knight, that's the way we do it on council. And I would agree with you. I don't know whether that's been the rule on this committee, but Chairman can answer that. I don't know whether.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dr. Knight, I misunderstood your question.
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't trying to be rude at all. I was just trying to say that we haven't had that convention. And so when we're thinking about power in the room, sometimes a comment like that can come across as maybe attempting to silence someone. And I do not think that was your intention at all. Because I know that you have higher intentions than that. But I'm just saying it could come across that way.
Okay.
And I just wanted to interject on that.
And I think that's fair. Why I said it is that oftentimes when we're having discussions, this is going back to your silence issue, okay? That you may be ready to say something, okay? And in order for us to give you that opportunity, okay, we need to make space. And by making space, I mean, if someone has already been in a discussion 2 or 3 times and you haven't, and that person raises their hand again, okay, as a chairman, because you hadn't been heard, I would give you that opportunity, even if that person's hand was up before yours. It's just a way on council, okay, that we allow everyone to have an opportunity to say something. And that's the only intent that was there for. It's not shutting anyone down at all. It's just giving everyone the opportunity to speak on a specific topic.
But I see Dr. Knight's point, though. Is that the rule here? I know that's the rule on council, but
Yes.
is that the rule for this committee? I mean, I don't know.
Well, we can, right now, we can decide on rules for the commission in terms of speaking. And I think that's getting closer to where Dr. Knight is saying that I shouldn't be dictating.
No, you explained it well. I mean, I do have a question, but I just wanted her question to be answered before I move forward.
So, Dr. Knight, is that a motion, or do you want us to?
Yes, I move that we adopt a norm for speaking order during our meetings. I do not have a specific motion for what the norm should be, but I do think that would be very helpful just for the course of future discussions, since we are aiming to be more open and honest in our conversation.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay. And do you want us to suggest the norm and come up with some ideas to present to the committee, or does someone have specific norms they'd like to recommend now? I think I'm hearing you say we should establish some.
Yes, I'm suggesting that we do establish some.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded that we establish and adopt norms for speaking during our commission meetings. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Next question though is, do you want the chairman's, or do you want to form a little committee? How do you want to go about establishing those norms?
That's a good question. I would like suggestions from the members of the commission for what might be most helpful in this space, which I think is different from a city council meeting, which is far more formal. So those are my thoughts at this point.
Okay. Do you want Amber to come up with a suggestion and include that as a part of the norms that she articulated to us earlier?
That sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay. Is that okay, Amber?
That's okay.
Okay. And then we'll vote on that. Councilmember Waring?
Yeah, I just want you to finish that part first before I ask my question.
Yes, Amber is going to come up with adding to the norms that she went over with us, one that deals with speaking.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, my question is, we're talking about subcommittees funneling out their reports, obviously, to the commission. And I'm wondering, how does a subcommittee grasp what may be systemic discrimination in the city process if they're not really familiar with the city process? And let me give an example. To many commission members, South Carolina in general is a state that's run by boards and commissions. You'd be shocked at how powerful these boards and commissions are, in some cases over and above the elected person. It's the same thing with the city of Charleston. The city of Charleston has a number of boards and commissions. And once appointed to those boards and commissions, those people make decisions that can affect lifestyles and certainly economics. I would say economics first, and then sometimes lifestyles next. And a lot of our boards and commissions, even to today, still have token representation. In other words, token African-American representation. Part of that in the mayor's problem or all the council problems. You'd be surprised sometimes how hard it is to get people to volunteer on these boards and commissions, because somewhat like this one, that those boards and commissions, it's actually a lot of work involved and there's no compensation. But I think we need the help of this commission to try to have more inclusion on those committees. I happen to be the planning commission. I can't tell you how powerful that board is. Or the board of zoning appeals. Excuse me, the board of zoning appeals, or the BAR. Those boards can determine, in some cases, wealth. whether wealth occurs or not. And I don't see how, and I'm hopeful through this process, these boards and commissions can be scrutinized. And I'll tell you why. It's not only are those boards and commissions powerful, and oftentimes they're backed up by a community organization, which has influenced them their own self. So when we look at trying to have a city that's diverse for all, and you have a preservation society, for example, that want to keep the rules as the same as they were 100 years ago, there's going to be friction. And there has been friction on that, as a matter of fact. But I think with some of the minds we have around this particular table, and obviously on some of the subcommittees, I was hoping some of this will be drilled down to be looked at. And I think it's kind of unfair to subcommittee members, or even in this case, some of the commission members, to be asked to come up with a report. And we have some things, right? We have some laws on the books, the city of Charleston goes back to Jim Crow. And I can't tell you how hard it is to defeat those laws, okay? And again, most of those laws empower those committees and empower those committees beyond your elected officials. I'll give an example. Let's say Mr. Johnson, who has an engineering business, and he wants to build an office building on a piece of property that he owns that's not zoned for what he wants to do. Let's say he's successful in getting that zoning. But then now to put the size building he needs on it, it needs a variance or an exception to the rule. He goes in front of that appointed board, they're not elected, that appointed board, and if he loses, he has to go, he can't come to city council or the mayor or council to appeal. He has to take city hall to circuit court. Now, if you're a small business owner, that's punitive. You know, if you're a big company that can take city hall to court and write a check and hire the big law firms, that's achievable. But I have been doing business in the city of Charleston since 1982. As a small business person. I have yet to see a woman-owned, African-American, Latino-owned business lose at that BZA, Board of Zoning Appeals, and been able to appeal to circuit court and defeat the city of Charleston. Now, I've seen majority businesses do that. I have not seen. Now, why can't that appeal, instead of going directly to court, come to your elected body and at least have another hearing in front of the people you have a right to keep in office or get out of office? But that's the structure that's in place. I don't particularly think that's right, but that's just one person's opinion. I would like to have the opinion of the subcommittees that would look at that, or this whole commission that would look at that. Planning and zoning creates wealth in America. It can create wealth or it can take it away. Dr. Knight's father happens to be, we all are in the same office park. This office park was a family little farm when I was a boy. A lot of years later, our family decided to develop it. It was zoned single family. It had to get rezoned to limited business to do what we wanted done. But for that rezoning, the offices of Dr. Mahaley, Dr. Ferguson, the law office of Arthur McFarland and Tony O'Neill, the cardiologist with Dr. Mazendet, and obviously our financial advisory firm would not be here. We may be someplace else, but we won't be here because we wouldn't have had the right to do it. We see all this development going around the city of Charleston, which are literally billions of dollars. How do we factor into that as an African-American community or women-owned businesses or the like? And I see this committee unknowingly, the phrase I'm gonna use is walking around that, but and I don't mean to be insulting with that. You all don't even know that that's a problem. I don't think you know that's a problem. And some of that is because I think there should have been more of an orientation between those on council and committee members to say, what are some of the problem areas as you see it?
Commissioner, can I respond?
Sure.
Yeah, because I mean, you're exactly right. A part of the reason that, we all are on the commission is to share and to attend as many of the subcommittee meetings as we can. And to me, what you just articulated, I agree, is something that should be looked at. But as a commissioner, we do have a subcommittee that will be doing the internal looks, okay? I'm not sure whether or not boards and commissions are included, but I think after this discussion that you just raised, it's something that the appropriate commissioner needs to take into account. But then one of the operating principles that the subcommittees are under is they know that the problems out here are huge and large and bigger than them. And instead of trying to get to all of them, they've been trying to focus on a few. However, I do think that the issue that you just raised, okay, should be included, okay, in our subgroups as something that should be looked at. So as a commissioner, I think that we have to continue to share with each other, become more a part of the inputs into the various subcommittees, because I mean, I do have ongoing conversations with some of the chairmen in particular about things that I see that I think that they should be looking into that they may not have thought of. So I think that what we need to do, again, okay, as commissioners, and this goes back to early discussions, we have to have more of these kinds of discussions so that we can share with one another. So I'm with you on that. And when Appel starts, we know his focus is going to be on zoning. We know that, okay? And so again, I think that we meaning some of the I hate to say older folks, but some of the people of our generation, okay, is a better term, can bring that kind of information to the various subcommittees for working on. And I think that's just a part of our responsibility as a commissioner.
Can I follow up one thing, and I won't dominate too much time on this follow-up. For example, Mr. Johnson has been in a small business in this area and have tried to do, for example, business with the county, the various cities around. I'm sure he has an experience to bring to say, when I tried to do this, maybe this was, the door wasn't open to the left or the right. Some of these other, the combination of as you refer, the younger folk and the older folk, I think is powerful, but you're right, that exchange of information, I don't see that happening. That has to take place so we could drill down on the specifics to come back. And for example, our procurement system with the city, if you were the outside trying to come in, I bet you have a different opinion of it than we may have. We need to hear that outside opinion. You follow me? So anyway,
and
you're right. These exchanges, I think, are important.
And I think that that's a Darren Calhoun internal look at kind of issue or question. that needs to be dealt with. But again, I think that the cross fertilization through generations, I think, is also just as important.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
And I think that this goes back to some of the initial questions from Crystal and Felice and some of the others of us all getting together and having those kinds of discussions openly.
So how does that happen? I mean, when do we do that?
Well, we
I
just
think at the subcommittee meetings.
Yeah,
Subcommittee.
it happens during the subcommittee meetings, and the subcommittees have been meeting almost weekly. I've tied in to many. Commissioner Jackson has been tying into some of them, and I know you've been having discussions with some of the chairmen as well. And I just think that we just need to do more of that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson. Is Commissioner Jackson out there?
I'm here, but I didn't have my hand up, sir.
I'm just reading the chat room.
Well, then you should be calling me Carol, sir. So get
All
on.
right, that's right. We did say that, didn't we? Hey, Carol.
Thank you.
You want to reprise your suggestion?
Yes, I mean, I put it in the chat.
Okay.
I remember introducing myself and suggesting at that point in time that it would be great if we could each call each other by our first name, just to sort of level the playing field, and I'll be one.
You're absolutely correct. We all did say that. And we did commit to call each other by the first name. So I'll stop the commissioner junk. Hi, Carol. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much.
Kimberly, did you have any? I'm sorry. I see Darren's hand.
Yes, I just wanted to reply to Councilman Warren. Basically, we do want to bring you into our subcommittee meeting. We did have Councilman Appel come on at one point to talk about zoning, and we definitely want to bring you in to talk more about your perspective and your basically bringing in that intergenerational knowledge that you have to move us forward. So we will be reaching out to you and getting you on our schedule as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Our next subcommittee meeting, so we'll be reaching very soon.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, and there is we all get the schedule of the subcommittee meetings, so we can sort of attend at will. Kimberly, I owe you a call. Okay, so I will be calling you. Okay. Any more? This is the open dialogue period. Any more discussions, issues? Crystal? No.
Mr. Chairman.
I didn't raise my hand this time.
Okay, Jerome.
At our last subcommittee meeting, Amber outlined and then provided us the information about the Kellogg grant. To the discussion about the need for it to be innovative, the earlier discussion about there being cross-committee conversations, I think activities coming from a number of those subcommittees would be good cannon fodder for an innovative proposal. And it would be helpful, I think, also some of us on some subcommittee members as well as commissioners have experience in grant writing, grant development, and it might be worthwhile for there to be a work session as those ideas begin to come together.
Okay. I think so too, because Crystal has been talking about that as well. I mean, Crystal brought forward the opportunity for the Kellogg grant 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think we talked about it and had some ideas. So I think it would be great if folks who want to work on the grant a little more directly, please let Amber know. That's as simple as I can put that. Okay. Alvin, did you? have something? Not?
No, I didn't. I was actually about to ask the same question that Crystal did a while ago, but Jason actually threw something out there not too long ago when I asked about the like 90 days. I just want to have that conversation at like some point in time and see what it looks like past 90 days. And if there's an opportunity for some of us that's involved to be part of some type of mechanism or process or accountability arm, just to be sure that these things are actually getting done. So
Yeah,
just something to think about.
I mean, the report may come in in 90 days or 120 days, but the work of the commission will not cease after that.
Okay.
The work of the commission will be to do some of what you just articulated.
And Alvin and the rest of the chairs, I would strongly encourage you all to make that part of my recommendations. That this work must continue and it should look like X, Y, and Z. And I think that's going to go a long way. But I think you've got my commitment, and I think you've got Dudley's commitment to get this work, to continue with this work. I think that's the most important piece. So. And
we put a lot of suggestions out there, but it's time for us to put some of this stuff into motion so that it can become a part of the record, and become a part of something that we all agree that we could be doing. Okay.
I think Darren has his hand raised.
Darren?
Oh, I'm sorry, I never put it down from when I needed to address Councilman Ware.
Okay. Any more?
One last thing, Mr. Chairman, I came on late. Apologize because I was working with clients, but did you all touch on the funding? I know we had a big austere budget. You touched on the funding that made it through?
Yeah, initially we did some administrative, and we did say that there are funds in the 2021 budget specifically for the commission and its work. And we also talked a little bit about the ongoing commitment from the city with respect to staffing this effort, which is funding as well. And of course, the backbone of all this are the volunteers. Okay, the folks who are making up these subcommittees and chairing it.
Did you touch on the amount that made it into the budget?
I did not. I think it was 125.
I think it's 100,000.
100,000, yes.
With a commitment to backfill the rest, depending on obviously the economy opens up. Funding.
Yes, because initially it was more than that.
It was 200.
It was 200, but
right.
Given our deficit,
right,
we were able to at least keep half of it in there.
Right.
Darren, you have your hand up again. Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, quick question. I know at the last meeting we talked about the Kellogg grant and whatnot, but after further reading it, it definitely said it could not go towards a municipal government. So have we looked at who that would possibly go through? Have we started looking at what organizations that that grant could go through so we can actually apply for it?
We haven't had those formal discussions yet. We have been having discussions with the Community Foundation, some other folks. And because there are a number of partners that we think that we will be able to partner with if there needs to be a nonprofit at the head. So that is something that we've been discussing. And if you've got any suggestions on who that might be, of course, we're all ears.
I attended the webinar, Darren, and they said that a government entity could apply, but you can't use it for funds that are already, I think it's covered by taxes. I think that was the term they used.
Okay, because when I read it, I didn't see that exclusion either. But there is something, but we can't use it for I forgot what it is, but there is a criteria, and I think that we can fit under it. But that's still not to say that we're not going to have to partner. Darren, okay.
And I would just add to that, Darren, and I think partnering is in our best interest. I don't think we want to silo this in any way. And I think the conversations with the Coastal Community Foundation, as well as the other foundations in the area, have to happen for this work to continue. So I know that the three of us, Amber, myself, and Dudley, want to keep those conversations going. So we'll keep you guys updated on those. And if you have any connections with any of the local foundations here, certainly funnel those through Amber so we can get those meetings scheduled.
Yeah, I guess I can say that the Race and Social Justice Initiative as well as the Avery can help along with that as well.
And they're old.
That's great, because
Yes.
that's the direction we're going.
Yeah, established. Thanks for that, Darren.
Before we actually commit to, we all need to sit down with our new director, as well as myself, so we can talk about RSJI as well as the Avery partner along.
Okay, as we move forward, we'll do that. Any more? Yes, Felice? You're on mute.
Sorry, I actually made my screen small too, so it threw me off for a minute. I was just wondering, can I get some clarity on when our work as current subcommittee chairs will conclude? Because what I'm thinking of is in previous meetings, Dudley and Jason, I've heard you say that in Wellstead that you want the work to continue, but does that mean with the current commissioners or in what form? Because I want to get a sense of the expected time commitment so that I can make plans as to how I may be able to continue to be involved or not, considering, work obligations and so forth.
Can we tell you that at our next meeting? Felice?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll do that. Okay.
Yeah, quick question to that, because I've had one subcommittee member who had to fall off recently. So would I have to come to Amber and also to council to replace that person, or can we go forward with just trying to look for someone else to actually be able to replace the person who fell off my subcommittee?
I know Felice had that same problem, and I think Amber can explain to you how we went about that. I think we did, accept the recommendation from the commissioner, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think provide us with their information, and then we can move forward.
Okay. Amber, is there anything else?
I'm all set, so there aren't any more questions.
Crystal? I just like to mess with you, Crystal.
You got back up, Crystal. I got you.
Okay.
I got you, Mr. Dudley. I got you.
I know. If not, I want to thank everyone, because I think that we're all making a sacrifice for the greater good here. Just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and to please be safe. Okay. If not, anything else to come before council member? No. Jason, anything else to come before the commission?
I don't, but I think Carol has her hand up.
Yes.
I just would like everyone who's got a t-shirt with some fun phrase on it to stand up so we can appreciate what you are advertising. Melanated, educated, I don't know what that means.
I love my HBCU. Okay.
Future farms, we need them up there.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Dan.
All day.
No problem. Also, in the true spirit of diversity, happy Kwanzaa as well as it comes up, and Happy New Year. And Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah.